81 days after his inauguration as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu has inducted his 45 substantive ministers who are expected to assist in fulfilling the renewed hope agenda of his administration. But barely 12 hours to the swearing-in of the cabinet members, the President did a minor reshuffling of portfolios, assigning Abubakar Momo to be in charge of Niger Delta Development, as against the Ministry of Youth he was earlier deployed to. While Adegboyega Uyitola, who was before now assigned to Transportation, is now Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, a new development many describe as first of its kind. As expected, the establishment of this ministry is eliciting reactions, with Nigerians envisaging a robust economic growth. Reportedly, the blue economy is estimated at $1.5 trillion globally, with provision of more than 30 million jobs. With the blue economy encompassing all economic activities related to oceans, seas, and other bodies of water, analysts say Nigeria's potential in this regard still remains largely untapped, despite her extensive coastline and abundant human resources. Experts are of the opinion that embracing the blue economy fully, Nigeria stands to gain with more opportunity for economic diversification. As former Osun State Governor Adegboyega Uyitola takes up this challenge, many hope for promising avenue for sustainable economic growth, new job opportunities, and foreign investment. Today, we will focus on prospects and opportunities in the marine and blue economy. This is Nigeria Today, and I'm Ikaria Clinton. Welcome. Joining me to discuss this is the Managing Director, National Inland Waterways Authority, Dr. George Moalo. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you very much for having me, Ikaria.
Also joining us is Engineer Emmanuel Ilori, former Senior Marine Engineer Surveyor to Lloyd's Register London, and immediate Vice President, Resident of Association of Marine Engineers and Surveyors. Glad you could join us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, I'll start with you, Morgan. You know, a lot of unbundling has been done in some of the ministries, and of course we have on board now the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. Now, as much as we'll say it is not really, the term is not new because it was introduced in 2012 by the United Nations in a conference. Now, tell us, give us a sense of what this really entails and encompasses.
Let me once again thank you for the opportunity you have provided me this evening to speak on this particular issue. For some of us stakeholders in the maritime sector, we feel very excited. Let me use the opportunity to commend the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for the initiative. We believe very strongly that the maritime sector is one area that there is every need for government attention and investment, because it has a lot of potentials which we need to tap in and develop our economy. So for government to now come up with a specific ministry to deal with maritime issues, to deal with the blue economy, is very much a welcome development. So we feel very excited about it. It has a lot of potentials. Like I did say earlier, there's quite a lot as a nation we can gain. You started by talking about 1.5 trillion, okay, in terms of global gain. And when you look at it in terms of global gain, you look at one, how it affects us as a people. We are the biggest economy in Black Africa. We have the population on our side. We also have the marine network. Apart from the coastal advantage, we have over 800 kilometers. I can boldly tell you that inland waterways in Nigeria today has over 10,000 kilometers to be tapped. though as we speak, it's only about 3,600 or thereabout. That is all year round navigable. So you can see, you can imagine the impact it's going to have on the economy by the time we develop the entire over 10,000 kilometers. Like I said a few days ago when I was involved in a discussion like this is a nation so blessed by God to the extent that we can access 28 of our 36 states by water by the time we open up all our channels. All right? So there's quite a lot to gain in this sector of the economy. There's quite a lot we'll gain as a people, as a nation, by the time we make further investments. But the step taken so far in creating a ministry goes to underscore government's realization of the importance, the blue economy, the impact it can make on our general economy, on our GDP, on our growth as a nation.
Well, thank you. Engineer Emmanuel, we had Dr. George there telling us that we can access 28 out of 36 states of the Federation through water. And of course, he has said we have quite a lot of opportunities and benefits. So tell us, the ministry has been unbundled now, and we have kind of more like, we have more of a focus right now, having the blue and marine economy. Tell us, what are some of the benefits of, unbundling these ministries?
Thank you very much for having me on this program again. And to thank Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for taking this bold and giant step to wake up the sleeping giant that is the maritime sector. Major stakeholders have been advocating for the creation of the maritime ministry so that the maritime industry will have a direct voice at the Federal Executive Council. Now, the maritime sector itself is so important that if Nigeria is going to take its position among the global economic giants, then the maritime sector needs to be taken seriously. If you look at the major developed nations, they have done so on the back of their maritime endowment. Now, there are three areas you can look at the maritime sector if you want to look at the advantages. One, from the economic perspective, from the livelihood, from the food security perspective, and then on the ocean ecosystem itself. The first two have what we can call low-hanging fruits because it relates directly to the state of the nation at this point in time. We need to look at our economy, and we have a population of over 200 million people to feed. Now, on the economy, like the previous speaker has said, Dr. Mogalo, the inland waterway system is so critical to the development and to the economy of this nation. I mean, you have the water sector or the inland waterway covering nearly 28 states of the Federation, including the federal capital. Now, that's a huge coverage. But then we cannot rely solely on the road network to drive this economy. The 28 states form part of what we call the serious network of logistics. So if we depend on the road network and the fledgling railway sector, there is no way we can sustain the logistics of this nation. Therefore, we need to open up the network of the waterways. After all, our colonial masters used the network of the waterways to develop this economy. So if you look at even the road network, we are developing Nigeria around the road network system, and that is not sustainable. The accident rate on our road network is not sustainable. the amount of goods that are wasted, millions of goods wasted because of the transportation on our road network is not sustainable. So it's not, the road network is unfortunately not driving the economy. We need to diversify and utilize the waterways network. The inland waterways is so huge on its own. And then if you look at the coastal network from the littoral states, is another huge dimension. That's just on the economic development alone. In terms of the food security, we have over 800 kilometers by the 200 miles going into the sea. That's a huge area where we can cultivate in terms of the food network, in terms of fish that is abound there. Other nations come into our waterways or into our water network to harvest our fish and sometimes re-import them back into Nigeria. That's an economic drain. So we need to look into the development of the food security aspects of the waterways so that we can feed our people on one hand, and on the other hand, for us to sustain the necessary logistics that we need to drive our economy. We cannot be building industries along the road network. Developed nations build their industry network around the waterways network so that we can get ships, small ships, to those areas so that we can begin to develop our economy.
Thank you very much, Engineer Emmanuel. Dr. George, you had quite a lot of things he said there, but however, a minister has been, as a matter of fact, today, they were inaugurated today. So what are we expecting him to bring to the table?
Like we all expect, here is a minister who has a track record. He has the experience, he has the knowledge. No matter how complex a ministry is, it can be more complex than a state. Here is a man, like when they were introducing him today, I didn't know he had so much strength in the insurance sector. Okay, and here is a man who was also an 8-year term chief of staff to a governor, and who eventually now became a governor and then served a 4-year term as a governor. So the issue of having the experience that is required to drive this sector or to manage this sector, I think he has all it takes. So it is all about us now who are surrounding him, his subordinates, to be able to encourage him, support him, and then provide all the needed information, and then he can provide the leadership that is required to drive the ministry. Because I understand even his speech today to us in the ministry shows his direction, shows his commitment, shows a man who realizes that there is a need to develop this sector, who sees the potentials in this sector, who believes that this sector can grow for our overall benefit. So I have my confidence that we have a minister who can lead us well.
This is still Nigeria Today. We'll take a break here and hit the street to hear the comment of some Nigerians on the issue of discuss. Don't go away.
Before the Tinubu created that ministry, he knows what he wants that ministry to do, and he knows what is going to come out from there. We believe there are good things that he wants to achieve in that place. That is why he created that ministry, that new ministry.
We expect to see something different from what has been existing before, basically. So to me, I don't really have much to say. All I just expect to see is that Nigerians should be what people expect to see. Like the president has given us a renewed hope. So we expect to see a renewed hope for things working out well for Nigerians.
So as time goes on, we'll get to know more about that Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. But I believe it should be something that will be positive, that will be for the well-being of Nigerians. And I know, with this government that came in now, the expectations are very, very high for the government. And so they really need to deliver.
At least let's give the economy in the next 6 months Let's see, since the ministers were just taking oath of office today and oath of allegiance. So we still need to give them 6 months and see what is going to happen to Nigeria economy.
I think if there are lots of security on the waterways, I think it will boost our economy.
If that ministry can boost the rate of exportation, I believe that will boost the economy.
Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today, and we are discussing the marine and blue economy. We have new ministers, and we're taking a look at the marine and the blue economy. Now, Engineer Emmanuel, you heard the reaction of people out there. Expectations are high. However, what are some of the foreseeable challenges you envisage that should be nipped in the bud if we are to achieve the desired growth and development in this sector?
I think one of the biggest challenges we have in the maritime economy is the injection of the necessary technical skills needed to develop that economy. It's a specialized sector, and that needs the necessary skill set to drive it. In the past, it's not been easy to articulate the importance of this sector to Nigerian economy. And as a result, the efforts to create the maritime department or the maritime ministry is always hitting the buffers. And I believe now that the president has identified the importance of this sector to this economy. Therefore, we need to ensure we have the necessary skill set to develop that economy, to develop that sector. Just give a corollary of the airways. You cannot expect the airline department or the aviation not to have the necessary manpower that will drive the aviation. So the maritime mirrors the aviation, and therefore we need to ensure we have people in place that can implement the policies of the federal government. We have talked about the low-hanging fruits. Yes, they are very, very critical. And if Nigeria is going to take its place among the global community, our maritime sector must be so technically developed so that it can take advantage of the opportunities that abound, either in job creation or in stemming capital flight or in the development of the necessary infrastructure necessary to drive this aspect of our national economy. So it's going to be a challenge, no doubt about it, but it's not insurmountable because Mr. President has a track record of delivering even when people think it's impossible. And he has put in place a minister that we believe is a go-getter. He will get the right people in the right places to ensure he hits the ground running, and that, as the case is, we make sure that our maritime sector actually drives this economy. If we look globally around us, we see those nations are there where the maritime sector takes center stage in the development of their economy, and Nigeria should take its rightful position among those nations. Netherlands, for example, China, for example, America, the UK, they ensure that their maritime industry is the backbone of that economy, and Nigeria should take the leading role. Majority of the goods coming to West Africa come to Nigeria, just as an example. So why is Nigeria not actually taking the rightful place? We have hundreds, if millions of tons of steel, ships that needed to be turned into steel. Nigeria depends on steel for its development. We can go on and on mentioning the various examples that the maritime sector can actually drive the economy of this nation.
Thank you very much. Dr. Moghalu, you said earlier on that we have a lot of opportunities that are yet to be tapped in this area, in this marine and blue economy. Now, what are some of these areas, like you've rightly said, that we are yet to tap, that we should be looking at? You know, what areas should we leverage on to, bring about the desired economic growth and development?
All right, let's look at the inland waterway sector, for example. Like I presented an analysis the other day, I spoke on the same issue. If you look at the investment we make on road infrastructure, developing the road infrastructure, you see that our roads are not designed to carry the pressure they are carrying. I try to create an analogy. Over 60% of the containers that come in, containerized goods that come into Nigeria through either Lagos or Port Harcourt. They are the two major routes. The other ones are not as effective or not as busy as Lagos and Port Harcourt. If you look at the containerized goods that come in there, over 60% of them end up in the southeast, either in Onitsha or in Aba. What that means is, for example, that there are 5 million containers coming into the east. It means that 10 million trailers will be on the road. 5 million trailers carrying the 5 million containers, and then 5 million carrying back the empties. And our roads are not designed to carry this level of load. So we end up losing our road infrastructure. We end up damaging the road infrastructure. At the end of the day, we have to repair these roads. We have to reinvest to get these roads working. But if we have avoided it from day one with a developed inland waterway transport system, moving cargo from, say, Lagos to Onitsha or from Port Harcourt to Onitsha, containerized cargo, moving them by water. What you have done practically is to remove 10 million containers out of the road, 10 million trailers out of the road. So that weight and that pressure, you remove them from the road, you have saved our infrastructure. So the money we invest in rebuilding our infrastructure can be diverted to other purposes. Don't forget that in civilized economies, bulk cargo is usually either moved by water or by rail. So we must look at that. Okay, when you're looking at movement of cargo by water, because one, it is safe, it is environmentally friendly, and it's cheaper in the long run. So why don't we develop that? And in the course of doing that, when cargo is moved from point A to point B, we developed infrastructure on those routes. New towns develop. Because these vessels, just like road transport, just like rail transport, there are points where you stop either to reload or either to get your vessel filled back or refueled and things like that. New towns develop, new businesses grow in those areas. We have not also looked at the tourism potential. There's enormous tourism potential. There's a lot to gain in that sector. And you can imagine the quantum of the employment opportunities that will come by the time we develop this particular sector of our economy. So there's quite a lot to gain. There's need for us to make some reasonable investment in terms of infrastructural development, in terms of making sure that these channels are open, and that will now involve dredging. Okay? And when you talk about dredging, you talk about either capital dredging or maintenance dredging. We do maintenance dredging more often now because the resources to do capital dredging is not there. So we do basic maintenance dredging to make sure that the channels that are open are all year round navigable. Otherwise, by the time we do major capital dredging, taking it from the upper Benue down to the lower Niger, by the time we open up these channels, and by the time we finish the ports we are building, as we speak today, we have completed Onitsha River Port, concessioned it. Baro River Port is completed. We are now in the process of trying to concession it. The Lokoja River Port is under construction. The Uguta River Port is under construction. The Benue River Port, work is about to start there. So when you put all this infrastructure in place, there's quite a lot that can be achieved. These are all low-hanging fruits that will be beneficial to the country.
Thank you very much. I really wish we had more time to talk more on this, because I know there's still a lot to talk about.
I wish so too.
But that's where we'll draw the curtains for today. But before we do that, we must first appreciate our guests. Managing Director, National Inland Waterways Authority, Dr. George Moghalu. Thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you for having me.
And also Engineer Emmanuel Ilori, former Senior Marine Engineer Surveyor to Lloyd's Register London and immediate Vice President, Resident of Association of Marine Engineers and Surveyors. Thank you so much for your time and contribution. And to our viewer, it's always a pleasure having you there. Don't forget, Nigeria Today airs every weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can watch this and other episodes on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thank you for watching. I am Ikaria Clinton. Goodbye.